There has been a growing conflict between motorists and group riding bicyclists in the last few years. The Florida Bicycle Association has assembled a collection of 8 public service announcements for television broadcast. These PSAs address the problem at hand, and through their use, the association hopes to bring understanding and solutions to both bicyclists and auto drivers who share the roadways. In this overview, Rafael Clemente, a former bicycle racer and transportation planner, will introduce the public service announcements and their concepts. We hope this presentation gives you a greater understanding on how to use these PSAs and how to avoid unneeded conflicts while sharing the road with other vehicles. It's important to remember that bicycles are legal vehicles with the same rights to the roadway and must follow the same laws as cars and trucks. Remember that bicyclists are people too and have little protection while sharing the roads.
I was a competitive cyclist for quite a number of years, 16 or 17 years racing, both as an amateur and a professional. My profession, my career as an urban planner, I have worked extensively in the field of transportation planning, particularly non-motorized stuff, pedestrians and bicyclists. And I've seen it from both sides. I've seen it from the statistical side, how many people ride their bikes, how many crashes there are, what causes crashes. And I've seen it from the side of being the guy on the bike on the road, by myself or with the group. Share the road for cyclists, motorists, pedestrians, in my opinion, means coexist. Give a little to get a little. I believe that traveling on public right-of-ways, whether they're roads or sidewalks or shared use paths or bike lanes, is all about respecting other users.
Bicycles are legal vehicles in Florida. Cyclists have the right to use the roadway, but must obey the same traffic laws as other vehicle operators. They must ride with the flow of traffic. They must obey all signs and signals. At night, they must use front and rear lights, plus a rear reflector. Cyclists may ride 2 abreast as long as they don't impede the flow of traffic. Where the lane is too narrow and unsafe for vehicles to pass, they have the right to take the lane. So if you're a cyclist, ride safely and obey the law.
In the situations I've been on in group rides, where we have really been impeding traffic, there's always the call within the group to single it up, single file, all the way to the right, as close as you can get to the right, and allow the flow of motor vehicles to pass. In the instances where the road is just too narrow, where you've got a 10 or 11 foot lane or a country road or hills where oncoming vehicles can't be seen, or curves, it is a wise decision to either break the group up into smaller groups of 5 or 6 or 10, or just to pull off at a convenient spot and let a number of vehicles pass and then get going again. And hopefully you get through that section of road where it is a difficult, constrained area, and you're in a place where you can freely ride as a group.
As a cyclist, you can help keep traffic flowing. Sharing in-town roadways can sometimes be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Passing 50 riders isn't easy or safe. When on narrow roadways, break it up a bit. Space it out by riding in groups of 5 or 10. This gives cars an opportunity to safely pass. As a courtesy, you can pull off the road and let large vehicles pass. It's your choice. Showing courtesy to other roadway users helps improve attitudes towards cyclists and keeps traffic flowing.
Cycling is a social sport. It's something you can do with your friends, with fellow riders, and being that the dynamics, the physical dynamics of cycling allow you to draft and ride faster with a group than you could as an individual. It's pervasive across every group, every place around the country, around the world, that when you're riding in a group on public streets with other traffic, that you somehow have a right to that space, or you somehow are entitled to special treatment because you're doing something special. You know, we often think, can't you see we're doing a group ride here? Can't you see this is part of a social thing? It's a fun thing. Why don't you just let us go do our thing? That's very dangerous on a public road, even if you have motorists that are relatively courteous.
Are you an ambassador for cycling? When you run a traffic light or roll through a stop sign, you act as if cyclists are above the law. When you ride in large groups and block the flow of traffic, you're not sending a good message to other roadway users. You can enjoy the ride and present a positive image by obeying all traffic signs and signals, and by riding in smaller groups where the roadway is too narrow for safe motorist passing. Positive cycling helps other users to understand and accept your right to use the roadway.
The benefit of riding a pace line is you're able to draft off of other riders. It's much more efficient riding in a pace line than it is riding as an individual as far as aerodynamics. When I first started riding in pace lines, I had plenty of crashes, caused plenty of crashes, was yelled at plenty of times by the elder statesman of the group, and I quickly learned that you need to pay attention to what's going on up ahead. What I've seen on public streets with uncontrolled traffic is you have a crash in the group and 4 or 5 people hit the deck, and you have people flooding out into the oncoming lane and off the road to avoid crashing. When you're riding a pace line on a public road with other vehicles, motorists do not know what you're doing. They don't know why you're peeling off the front and drifting to the back, and they think, what's wrong with that guy, or what's wrong with that woman? She's riding outside of the line. I can't count the number of times I've been screamed at, you know, single file, get single file, as I'm drifting to the back of the group. Verbal communication, riding in a pace line, is essential to your safety and to the safety of the group. I always like to equate a group of cyclists in a pace line or a peloton like a school of fish. We react to the reactions of those around us. And if you've ever dove or watched National Geographic Channel, you see, you know, they're all moving together. That's how a pace line works.
Experienced cyclists like to ride in wind-blocking groups called pace lines. It helps the entire group maintain a higher speed. Here are some important rules to follow. Less experienced riders should stay in the back and observe proper pace line techniques. Large pace lines often make it difficult for motorists to safely pass. Limit pace line riding to roadways with wide lanes, low traffic, and safe opportunities for motorists passing. Break into smaller lines so motorists can pass safely. Most importantly, be alert and expect the unexpected.
There is always a temptation just to keep rolling. It's a pain in the neck to stop, especially abruptly. And many riders will make the argument it's more dangerous to stop quick than it is to run the light. I've heard that argument so many times. If we all stopped, we'd rear-end each other and we'd crash. Many drivers will, jackrabbit start from the light. As soon as it goes green, they're on the gas. Or there's a turning vehicle. There's any number of things can happen. Intersections are places where there's always crashes, there's always injuries. If you're in the front of the group, if you're at the front of the group, on the front or near the front of the group, and you see that light getting ready to turn, it's been green for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and you know the yellow and the red are coming. I always start slowing down. I lay off the pace, I put the hand down, or I say slowing, we got a red light coming up, and I just back off the pace. I take the initiative from the front. Even if I'm not the front rider, if I'm near the front of the group, first 5 or 6 guys, I'll back off the pace and I'll say, hey, stopping, red light.
It's dangerous enough for motorists to run a red light, but think of how hazardous it is when a group of cyclists tries to shoot the gap. Then imagine what could happen if an impatient motorist goes immediately on green. When approaching a signalized intersection that's turning yellow, lead riders should stop. Only if the lead riders can't stop should they proceed through the intersection. All other riders should stop. Safely negotiating signalized intersections not only creates a positive image for cycling, but you'll avoid injury and save lives.
The desire to not get dropped is very powerful. You've geared up for this ride for a week or a month or who knows how long. You've trained. You want to stay with the group. You want to stay with your friends. You don't want to ride 40 miles by yourself into the wind. So it's very compelling to just go along. Oh, they made it through, I can make it through. But, the law of averages is that you do that a number of times and you're going to get caught either with a ticket or with an injury or worse. Use good judgment. Yeah. It's not worth it. It's just a group ride.
Follow the leader is fine here, but it's not such a good idea here. Ignoring traffic signs or signals can get you injured or killed. Besides, it's against the law. Cyclists who disobey traffic laws present a negative image of cyclists in general. On training rides, split up into smaller groups and agree as a group to obey traffic signals. You'll not only be creating a positive image for cycling, but you'll avoid injury and save lives as well.
When I choose a route to ride, I typically try to choose a route that's first the most direct route to my destination if I'm going on a transportation type of trip. And then second, the most convenient and the most attractive to me in what I think is a nice place to ride my bike. And that means typically lower motor vehicle volumes, lower speeds, fewer lanes. I don't like to ride on multi-lane roadways because motor vehicles tend to go at much higher rates of speed. So I like the neighborhood street or the small collector road, 2 or 3 lanes, or maybe 2 lanes in each direction, are places I choose to ride. As far as my location on the roadway, the first rule that I use when I'm riding my bicycle is that the closer to the speed of the flow of traffic I'm going, the further out in the lane I'm riding. So if I'm on a downtown street where vehicle speeds are, because of congestion, are 15 or 20 miles an hour, I'm in the lane just like a vehicle. And many times I'm slowing down because of vehicles in front of me.
Florida law requires cyclists to ride as far right as practical when going slower than other traffic. What you may not know is that when a road is too narrow for safe motorists passing, cyclists also have the legal right to take the lane. However, to keep traffic flowing, cyclists should use good judgment in roadway sharing. Consider an alternate route or an occasional detour onto side streets. When traffic backs up, think about getting off the road to allow cars to pass. Know your rights and responsibilities and use good judgment when sharing the road.
Behavior on a multi-use path, first and foremost, never do a group ride on a multi-use path. And I've seen this. It's terrible, it's disrespectful, and it's dangerous above all.
Bicycles are versatile vehicles that not only share the roadway, but also travel on trails, in crosswalks, and on sidewalks. In this environment, it is important to be alert for non-roadway users, especially pedestrians. Unlike the roadway, there are fewer rules for traveling here. They can and do move in every direction and on any portion of the path. There's a mix of ages and abilities, and they move considerably slower than a cyclist 10 to 15 miles per hour. So when your route takes you off the roadway, be courteous, pay attention, and expect the unexpected.
My attitude toward motorists is that almost all of them want to do the right thing. A few of them aren't paying attention, and you want to watch out. You are ultimately responsible for yourself on a bike. You can't control what other people do, but you certainly can pay as much attention as possible to the environment around you.
In recent years, a few state and local governments have attempted to limit cyclist access to public roadways. As group riding becomes more popular and the potential for cyclist-motorist conflict increases, the promotion of laws restricting cycling is a real possibility. Some members of the general public see large cycling groups as a nuisance and a hazard. They'll use the legislative process to solve the problem, and there are more motorists than cyclists. To help avoid this scenario, it is essential that group riders police themselves and seriously consider the group riding techniques outlined in this program.